Yo, what up, y'all? It's your boy Rob coming back at you once again with another video. So before we get started, you already know what to do. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the bell icon twice. Smash the like button, share this video out to all of your followers, and let's get it cracking, all right? So looks like we got some interesting developments in New York City with the migrant crisis, who a lot of larger YouTubers have now hopped on the train to get some nice AdSense checks. But those of us migrant crisis OG content creators who have been following this for some time warned people that this kind of thing would start happening. We asked in the initial phases of this, how much money were people making off of the migrant crisis? That includes vendors, that includes government officials with these no bid contracts. In this situation in New York City, what you will see is that there was an individual who set up an illegal migrant shelter, a couple of them, and was making a little bit of bank off of the migrants, who in some situations happen to be the same ethnicity as the guy who was running the chop shop. So let's check this out. We got an article from Fox 5 New York, and it says New York City migrant crisis. What we know about the two illegal busted shelters. All right. And when they say busted, I think they're talking about the appearance and the fact that the guy got caught. Two illegal New York City migrant shelters housing dozens of people were busted in a span of 2 days in Queens and the Bronx. The news comes after Mayor Eric Adams renewed his call again on Tuesday to the White House to give migrants faster access to work papers, saying, "You place 1,000 people in one setting and tell them they can't work. All they do is sit around all day, tempers flare." Isn't that the situation in a lot of New York? But it's interesting how Eric Adams only uses that excuse when it comes to the migrants. Here's everything we know about the two illegal migrant shelters busted this week. This is the one in Queens. Migrants found living inside building basement. So we got an actual people under the stairs situation. On Tuesday, over 50 migrants were found being illegally housed inside an overcrowded and hazardous two-story building. Officials found 14 bunk beds and 13 beds tightly packed in the cellar on the first floor of SARS Wholesale Furniture at 13203 Liberty Drive in South Richmond Hill. Ebul Starr, the store's owner, said he was charging the residents $300 a month for a place to sleep, as well as providing breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He said as many as 70 people were staying there because they couldn't afford a place to live after timing out of the city's emergency shelter system for migrants. Cell phone video showed the inside of the building packed with beds and people inside. So many people were living in the basement that they reportedly had to sleep in shifts. The backyard of the building had what appeared to be multiple delivery bikes and supplies. Inspectors said the spaces had no ventilation, natural light, or enough place for the people sleeping there. Officials even found illegal plumbing work that had been done without permits. The DOB issued a full vacate order for the first floor and the cellar. This is the one in the Bronx. Store busted for housing dozens illegally. Illegal shelters housing illegal migrants. Man, that's wild. And I guarantee you, all this illegal activity, probably no one got arrested. On Wednesday, another illegal migrant shelter was discovered. Officials raided the building for illegally housing dozens of people under dangerous conditions. New York City Department of Buildings issued a vacate order for a two-story commercial building on East Kingsbridge Road in Fordham. Our inspectors found that one of the commercial stores in the building had been illegally converted into sleeping quarters, with 34 beds on the first floor and 11 beds in the cellar, tightly packed together, a DOB spokesperson told Fox 5 NY. Inspectors also found extension cords, e-bikes, space heaters, and hot plates inside the Bronx building, the DOB said. That's a fire hazard just waiting to happen. Fox NY cameras captured several men carting suitcases out of the building as NYPD officers watched. One man told Fox 5 NY's Kendall Green that he doesn't know where he will sleep Wednesday night. The man said he paid the building owner $300 a month and had lived at the location for 2 months. The New York City Office of Emergency Management is assisting those who were living in both buildings. All right. Now check this out. A third illegal makeshift shelter housing African migrants revealed in New York City. All right. A Senegalese man who was busted this week for illegally housing dozens of African migrants packed into 2 of his properties was also nabbed for operating a similar makeshift shelter in January, the New York Post reports. Ibu Sarr, who is 47, who has apparently had several run-ins with the law in the past, was found to have been charging the desperate migrants $300 a month to stay at his 2 New York City properties, a furniture store in Queens and a former cell phone store in the Bronx, where they faced cramped living conditions. Video from inside the Queens building shows a room with tightly packed bunk beds side by side, divided by a narrow aisle. Sarr was hit with a slew of violations for the building's dangerous conditions, and both were ordered vacated. All right. The New York Post, citing court documents, now reports that Sarr was also busted in January for operating a third pop-up hostel in an abandoned library in the Bronx. The building, known as the Old Fordham Library, is located at 2556 Bainbridge Avenue, just off Coles Lane. He reportedly told police they were walking into, quote-unquote, our migrant shelter when they sweeped the old book house, the court documents state. I run it, Sarr told police, according to a criminal complaint. I help these people because they have nowhere to go. You also help those people so you can get $300 a month times everyone who falls for your scam. Shelters won't accept us. I have proof of residency from the mayor. I have a business up the street, but this is where I live. He was charged with criminal trespassing, the New York Police Department told Fox News Digital. Still, Sarr is demanding that the city let migrants use the building as a shelter since it is currently lying idle. Places like that, they can put the people in. Fix the place and put the people in there, Sarr told the Post. It was a place that I think is empty and safe for us to put, quote unquote, our people. That's it. Interesting. What about the, quote unquote, our people of New York City? We were trying to get the city to give us that library. It's been there for so many years, Sarr told the Post Thursday. Police also revealed to Fox Digital that Sarr had been arrested several times over the last decade. In 2020, he was arrested for allegedly pushing his wife, causing her to hit her head on a chair before then trying to strangle her. Oh, wow. He has also been arrested for operating a stolen car without a license, criminal possession of marijuana, and criminal contempt for violating an order of protection. On Wednesday, city officials swept a 2-story commercial building on East Kingsbridge Road in Fordham being operated by Sarr, where they found 34 beds on the first floor and 11 beds in the cellar tightly packed together. Inspectors also found extension cords, e-bikes, space heaters, and hot plates inside the Bronx building, the New York City Department of Buildings told Fox 5. Lithium batteries caused a record number of fires, injuries, and deaths in New York City last year, according to the FDNY, highlighting the hazardous nature of the facility. And when they talked about that briefly in the last article, you will notice that I mentioned, yeah, that's a hell of a fire hazard. The sweep came just 2 days after a furniture building in Queens, owned by Sarr, was found to also have been converted into a makeshift hostel, cramming at least 74 migrants into the first floor and the cellar. Now, here's my question. How many of you guys think that this individual had some of these people working for him? If you guys think that he did, let me know in the comments section. Sarr told Fox 5 that most of the migrants are from Senegal and that he was providing them with breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Cell phone video from inside the building showed the African men in a bright white room full of beds with a low ceiling. The The beds are placed close together with limited walking room. A single narrow lane runs through the room with beds on either side. Another video shows a similar room full of bunk beds. All right. So what we got next are a couple videos that we're going to watch. Some local news footage that's actually showing these shelters, and also an interview with Mr. Starr to see just exactly what it is that he might have to say about this situation. All right, so let's check this out. As you will see, this was Starr's attempt to create a minor Senegalese value chain, a minor network where he does a favor for his Senegalese people and they do favors back for him. Interesting. Let's check this out.
For the second time in 2 days, the NYPD has uncovered an illegal makeshift migrant shelter. Today's discovery in the Bronx follows yesterday's raid in Queens. It now brings the total number of migrants to more than 100, all housed in 2 separate commercial businesses owned, investigators say, by the same man. News 4's Chris Jose live in Fordham tonight, where the eviction, we understand, is underway, Chris.
And Natalie, talk to some of the neighbors out here. They'll tell you this was no secret. Migrants often spotted coming and going every single day. Where the majority of them are going next and how soon, unclear tonight. NYPD tonight, commercial business in the foreshams of Gate or Place. Migrants, officials say, were living illegally in the 2-story building on Kingsbridge Road, collecting their belongings. Building inspectors, along with the FDNY, discovering 44 beds crammed together in and first floor.
I just came out of the library and all I see is the police, flushing them out one by one, taking the stuff.
Inspectors also finding extension cords, e-bikes, space heaters, and hot plates on both floors. Inside, inspectors say there's a lack of natural light, ventilation, and severe overcrowding. Department of Buildings calling the conditions hazardous and life-threatening. How much was he charging them?
I think they said $300, some say $600.
This neighbor spoke to the men every day, some of them living here for just 3 months. One migrant says he and 50 other roommates would shower at a gym across the street.
It wasn't safe down there.
No toilet, no baño, nothing.
No toilet.
DOB issuing 2 violations to the landlord. They say also operated an illegal migrant shelter at a furniture store in South Richmond Hill, Queens. Ivo Starr told us Tuesday he's just trying to help.
This is the situation. This is what we're trying to avoid.
Now, it's interesting, right? You're a New Yorker. How are you helping by continuing to contribute to the strain on the city by housing illegal, undocumented migrants? How is that helping anything? What is that helping and who is that helping? Because it's definitely not helping the taxpayers in New York. This should show an indication of, when it comes to a lot of these people coming into the country, where their loyalties lie.
For them to be out there in this cold weather.
Migrants staying illegally at the Bronx business, loading their suitcases on a bus. Police and emergency management officials directing them to city-run shelters. One asylum seeker who did not want to be identified telling us he wants another option.
We need an apartment, but we have money for pay. We don't need a center.
Let me ask you guys a question. What do you all think these people's options should be? Give it to me in the comment section.
In the city is very difficult.
Some of the migrants here are choosing to go to a city-operated shelter tonight. Others really have no game plan. Right now, they're reaching out to friends here in New York City to see if they can crash for a few days. We're live in the Fordham section. Chris Jose.
So there's that. And it's interesting. They're, quote unquote, looking for more options. All right. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at another video. And this video goes into a little bit more detail in regards to the individual who owned the properties that were being used to illegally house these illegal migrants.
Dozens of men were crammed into the basements of his 2 stores, many with beds stacked on top of each other. One of the illegal shelters was in Fordham in the Bronx, the other in Richmond Hill, Queens.
CBS 2's Jennifer Bisram reports now on the safety concerns and also the new option the city is exploring to house migrants.
Every day, I talk to them. I've been running back and forth to.
So this is interesting. In this situation, this is how the city responds. Criminal building violations occurred. Hazardous conditions were done. Nothing was done right here. And the response to this is to facilitate doing this legally instead of punishing the people for breaking the law. Interesting how that works. Again, you have to start asking the question when it comes to the government, where do the loyalties lie?
between Queens and the Bronx.
2 basements of businesses in 2 boroughs housing African migrant men. Ibu Sar has been leading the charge.
They don't know no way to go.
Sar owns both businesses and leases space at both locations, but city officials say he was housing dozens of migrants in illegal sleeping quarters in Queens and the Bronx. Dozens of beds and cots in tight spaces in the cellars and on the first floors, with limited ventilation, exits, and bathrooms. Inspectors also finding e-bikes, space heaters, and hot plates.
We went in and found that there were individuals living in unsafe conditions. And as we would with any New Yorker that we find living in an unsafe condition, we immediately vacated those locations and referred those individuals to additional resources.
The mayor says he was taking advantage of asylum seekers.
I don't know if this is...
Both parties were involved in illegal transaction, and you see how it was handled. Now, if this was people who are American citizens, would this have been handled in this way?
benevolence, or was a benefit that he was trying to obtain?
But Sar says the men have been reaching out to him after their 30-day shelter stay, most with nowhere to go but the cold streets.
They're sleeping on the trains and they're giving them tickets. You know, it's just sad. We was taking a donation, $300 donation monthly.
He says at one point he even lived in the Bronx basement. Now he's looking for a better place for them.
Like back home, when you have a store, you can live in your store.
This isn't back home. See, this is the thing. This isn't back home. This is not back home. This is the United States. We have different rules. A lot of the things that this individual got in trouble for, strangling, allegedly, that might be okay back home. It's not okay at all, but according to the legal system, it might be okay back home. It's not okay here. It's amazing how the mind state is. Nowhere on earth would you be able to go and force unorthodox elements of your culture onto the country that you're in. Only in the United States and other Western European ran countries is that somehow normal. And then they blame it on the people that live here already. Make it make sense.
You know, that's the way it is over there.
Officials say over 179,000 migrants have gone through the city's system since
that's the way it is over there, which is why you're not there anymore. Back home is how it is, which is why you're not there anymore. That's why you came here, because here is nothing like your home, which is why you wanted to come here in most cases. Make it make sense.
Spring. Last week, 1,200 alone, with 217 emergency sites and limits on how long they can stay at each. Housing everyone has been no easy task.
We are helping ourselves because they're not helping us.
CBS 2 has learned the city is exploring all legal and safe options.
They're helping you by not throwing you in jail for breaking the law, for one. And they're also helping you by the migrant shelters that they had, that those people were in for 30 days. That's more help than what American people in New York City are getting. If you guys agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down.
To house migrants, including expanding their faith bed program, inviting houses of worship who have the space and are up to code to help.
We have a strategy.
And we're told some of the migrant men were taken to a service center so they can wait to be placed in another shelter. In the meantime, Sar says he wants to meet with city officials to discuss housing ideas. In the Bronx, Jennifer Bisram.
He wants to meet with city officials so he can figure out a way to keep his hustle going, is what he wants to meet with city officials for. Next, we're going to listen to more from this individual and see how he justifies his actions. And clearly, Mayor Eric Adams, the rest of the United States, and President Biden are okay with this as well, because as you can see, the punishment for this law violation was very minimal.
Sar owns both of the makeshift migrant shelters shut down this week by the NYPD, one in Queens, the other here in the Bronx.
The cold can kill. The cold weather.
Some 130 West African men from his native Senegal and surrounding countries now left scrambling for housing. In a recent interview, Mayor Eric Adams did not specifically criticize Sar, but added, generally speaking, those who exploit innocent people must be held accountable.
Which is interesting, but that's neither here nor there. We can discuss that in another video.
So we asked Sar, who emigrated from Senegal almost 3 decades ago, if he believed he was exploiting the migrant men who paid him roughly $300 a month for a bed in his 2 business locations.
Now, notice how he called those donations. He didn't call it rent. He called them donations. 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 That's what he called it. Now, how did those other Senegalese people know where he was and how to reach out to him? Let me get you guys' best guess on that.
I'm not exploiting anybody. Like I said before in the past, we are helping ourselves because they're not helping us.
SAR does acknowledge the health, fire, and safety concerns raised by so many people living in a space not designed for residential use. The latest stats only further complicate this debate. The Adams administration says between the city's traditional homeless population and migrants, there are now a combined 120,000 people living in the city's shelter system.
It's not nothing new.
And while these makeshift migrant shelters are now topping the headlines, the reality is countless struggling New York City residents, including Bronx resident George Arroyo, have and continue to pay monthly or even weekly for a single bed in a crowded room inside a stranger's apartment.
I've been paying like $150, $200 every week, for a room just to sleep. I can't cook, you can't do nothing,
How many years have you been doing that?
I've been doing that for like a lot of years. I'm not surprised because people don't want to be out on the street of the cold.
Ibu Sar says he has no regrets.
We need change. We're not going to let our people out there sleeping in the streets. It's wrong.
They can sleep in their home countries. Nobody forced them to come here, unlike our ancestors. Our ancestors were forced to come here and still haven't received the accommodations that people who chose to come here are receiving. Make this make sense.
We are all equal.
Buildings department and fire department officials telling me this afternoon that they have issued several violations to the corporate entities attached to this property and the one in Queens. Potential fines, a maximum of 50 grand between both properties from DOB, 8 grand from the fire department. The DOB hearing set for early May. It is still unclear if Ibu Sar has any connection to either of the corporate entities that received those violations. We're live in the Bronx this evening. Jay Dow, Pix 11 News.
Make that make sense, ladies and gentlemen. So Mr. Starr believes that he did nothing wrong, and actually it's the United States who did wrong, who did not force any of those people here. Bizarre times that we're living in, and people who are late to the boat when it comes to talking about the migrant crisis. It's been going on for a while now. I don't know. However, here at Blacklight Revelations, we will continue covering it, and we will continue taking your thoughts and opinions about it. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the bell icon twice, smash the like button, share this video out to all of your followers. Make sure you watch the next suggested video by hitting the box in the lower left-hand corner, and I will catch you all on the next one. All right? Peace.